What's good, y'all? How are y'all doing? I'm back with another video today. If y'all are new to the channel, I do lifestyle rearrangement content, and the topic of today's video is memory is your message. Sometimes the reason it feels like God is quiet is because you're not listening. God has spoken to you in times where you've heard Him clearly and still didn't follow His word of wisdom. Instead, you passed over it and forgot about it because it didn't accommodate you or your bad habits. Your memory is a habit. If you pass over things with ignorance instead of with steady thought, action, and cooperation, you're showing God that certain things don't matter enough for you to get yourself together. Meaning this, the more ignorant you are of God's plan for you, the farther back you take yourself. So stop blaming God for your ignorance and instead follow instructions. Alright, y'all, so purpose of that message is your memory is deeply important. Why is your memory deeply important? Because certain things that you're asking God to do now are things that He told you in the past. So that could be anything. It could be like about a friend, it could be about a family member, it could be about a job opportunity, it could be about just your life in general, it could be about, your purpose in life, it could be about anything. So you could have asked God, let's say 5 years ago. You could have asked God a question, whatever this question may be, and He gave you an answer. So you might have started, pursuing that answer, meaning instead of just sitting there and letting that answer go by, you started doing things, because you heard God say something, and you're like, okay, let me get this done. Or, in another case, you might have heard it, and been like, okay, and just said, I'll get back to that later, and passed over it like it was nothing. At the end of the day, here's this. Sometimes the word of wisdom that God gives to you is not always, I say gifts instead of gives, because even in bad situations, usually that are by God, if God puts us through a situation, most of the time it's going to, how can I say it? It's going to reward us in some way. So while it may not reward us at that exact moment, and more than likely it's going to end up rewarding us later, right? So if God gave you a word of wisdom, that does not mean that that thing was necessarily for that time, but it also does not mean that you should just pass over the message. You should write it down, think about it, mostly jot it down. Jotting it down is very important because over time you can get more insight about that specific word. So just write it down. Write details that you thought about, that could possibly be a part of this message, whatever the situation may be, and call it a day. Y'all have an issue, well, we all at a certain point have an issue where instead of saying, okay, God spoke to me, allow me to obey, no matter what is to be said. It could be anything. It could be God's word, which y'all don't understand is sometimes, everybody, when I say y'all, I mean, just, as a collective, including myself, is that whether or not a word of wisdom that God gave to you accommodates your bad habits or just you in general, has nothing to do with it. As long as that specific word of wisdom was gifted to you and given to you, then that means that it is to be of use, if not then, at some point. So don't be ignorant with the word and just, okay, and just leave it. At least jot it down. If you ask God for an answer, it may not always be the answer that, you please. But it's up to you now that you got the answer to your question, to take action. What people think sometimes is that, okay, well, God told me something, that's final. No. When God tells you something, that is not, okay, well, it's final now. No, that's not the case. I'll tell you what the case is, though. God gives you a vision. God gives you a word. God gives you a memory. You're supposed to discern what you need from that thing. Either discern what you need from it, or a message somebody gave you, discern what you need from it, or take the whole message and apply it to your life. Meaning, act on the word. So if God says, okay, you need to go to you need to find a way to better your health. You know one way to better your health is the gym. Go to the gym. Go to the gym. It's not hard. Sometimes you make stuff hard for yourself because you're listening to your brain. You're listening to your mind. And sometimes it's not that, like I said, it's not that something is hard or complicated. It's just that you're being lazy. And you know, I'm not going to say that's fine because it's not fine. You have to be able to control your mind. Have to be able to control your mind. Because if you are not able to control your mind, rapid. Just, you're always going to be getting into something if you don't know how to control your mouth, control your mind. Controlling your mind is a part of controlling your mouth and every other part of your body. Because without your mind, you won't be able to do certain things. If you don't think to breathe, you're not going to breathe. I'm sorry. Like, if it's not in your mind to say, okay, breathe, you're not going to breathe at a certain point in time. So, like I said, you got to make a decision. If God gives you a word of wisdom, or if you keep hearing something regarding yourself, because sometimes, here's this, sometimes it's a memory, and sometimes somebody is continuously reminding us what this thing is. Whether that is in the form of a person, or that is in the form of God. But God ain't going to tell you too many times. So, he uses people to do certain things. If you keep hearing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, that is a sign that, yes, this is a sign from God. Continue, like, if you hear something over and over and over and over again, I'm not talking about somebody telling you you're not going to make it. That's not what I'm talking about. If it's something positive that's going to better your life, that's what I mean. What I'm saying is, because sometimes people take stuff differently. If somebody tells you, or multiple people have told you, you're not going to make it, it's up to you. Again, same thing. It's up to you to decide to listen to what they're saying. If somebody says, oh yeah, you're not going to make it, you're not going to make it. If you believe them, that's on you. That's what you decided to do. Y'all take so many things that are negative instead of taking the positive things. So when I said that, somebody out here could have been like, oh, well, there are a multitude of people who told me I wasn't going to make it. And that's what they take my message as. Like, no. If somebody is telling you something that is going to better yourself, it's like, let's say if you're a heavy drinker. All you keep hearing around you is stop drinking, stop drinking, stop drinking, stop drinking, stop drinking, stop drinking, stop drinking. Whether if it's from the same person or different people, that might be a sign to listen. So yes, go back into your memory and think about the things that God has previously told you. Think about those things. Think about the people who have said things on and on and on and on and on about things that can better yourself. And continue to work towards just building your memory. Because like I said, your memory is a habit. If every time God tells you something, you're like, okay, sit around, doodle around, do whatever you're doing instead of getting to it or doing something that is equivalent to you being able to do this thing, whatever pursuit of action that you need to do. Instead, you just sit around. Then you're never gonna get what you desired. Stop looking for God to speak to you. Sometimes, let me make sure I'm speaking, I'm saying this right, because I don't want to confuse you. Yes. God is not quiet because, God is denying me. God is mad at me. God is disappointed. No, he's not. You got to go back to what he told you before. What did he tell you before that you didn't follow? What was an instruction that God gifted to you that you did not follow? Because last time I checked, as I said before, a gift is a good thing. So whether or not the gift to which God gave you, meaning what he gave you, whether it was good or bad, is to help for something in the future, if not now. So that's why I call it a gift. So usually it does not mean if you're talking to God and he's not responding, it's not usually that he's not listening. Either is that he gave you an instruction already and you did not follow the instruction. There is a person or a certain amount of people you know or don't know who keep telling you the same thing that is not to harm you but to better yourself, and you're not listening. Or you're just not listening at all. It's either one of those three. You're not. Because look, you're not taking action to what God told you to do. What people that are trying to help you are telling you to do. You're just not doing what you're supposed to do. That's the moral of it. I'm telling you, you would hear God clearly, as clear as day, if you did what he told you to do. It's as simple as that. You would be in a much better space in life if you just do what God told you to do. So even if you gotta think back and say, what did God tell me in this specific year? Or what did God tell me? Just overall, what did God tell me? What has God talked to me about? When he was speaking to me, what did he say to me? Because if you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're taking from what God is telling you to do and you're taking the action, you would hear him perfectly fine. And if you still don't hear him, either you haven't did anything. Matter of fact, no. If you did everything God has told you to do, either he's gonna stop talking because he is working something out for your good, or you're not gonna hear him because you're not, one, listening to what he's telling you through whether experience it himself, yourself, or people, or he's not talking because you're not taking action. So if he told you to do something, and instead of writing something down to remember it or taking the action, if you could do it in that moment to do what you have to do, then yes, there's going to be an issue. There's going to be an issue with the mechanism. There's going to be an issue. You gotta put in something to get something out. It's as simple as that, bro. So if God told you something in the past, think about your memory. What do you remember God telling you? What do you remember about the conversations that God has had with you? What do you remember about your experiences? What do you remember? Then you'll start getting answers. When you start, oh, God did tell me this back in such and such and such. And I really haven't did that. It's like me, for example. I have not really stayed consistent for even just 3 months with just, entrepreneurship. I have not stayed consistent for a full 3 months. And I'm being honest, that's my personal, that's personal. That's something somebody else wouldn't tell you. But I haven't been consistent for a whole 3 months. So while 3 months doesn't seem like a lot of time, 3 months, only the Lord knows what can happen in 3 months. A lot can happen in 3 months. But I haven't even been consistent on here for 3 months, just with my business for 3 months, with posting for 3 months, with just developing knowledge for 3 months. I haven't been consistent. And sometimes people think that being consistent means being focused on that specific thing and putting 1,000% of your effort into it. Sometimes people think consistency is, I wrote for an hour a day. That's something, but you can do more than that. That's the point. So if it seems like God is not answering your prayers, think about what he told you in the prayers he didn't answer. Think about what he told you. Think about what he's told you. Think about what you're hearing on a daily basis, and just think about what you're going through. Just with experiences, period. Just think about what you're going through. You guys have any comments, questions, or concerns? I'm open, you know what I'm saying? You could talk to me through the comments. Also, I could put my Instagram in the description. If you want to talk personally, just let me know that that's what that's for. You know, you can still DM me. Pretty sure, you know, if I go to my hidden, some like you know, like the messages that are like hidden and stuff or whatever, right? Then, you know, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to find it. So any questions, comments, or concerns, comment down below, or, you know, DM me through my Instagram, and I'll see you guys in another video.